Personal branding?
Personal branding?
Yeah, the very new phrase, which personally annoys me because it's the running theme of something in marketing or sales or just business life in general that has to have a label that has always existed. Personally, this is my own opinion.
Your personal opinion on personal branding?
Personal opinion on personal branding is that personally, I think it's always existed. It's now just got a label.
But you're not annoyed with the concept, you're just annoyed that somebody's giving it a name.
Yeah, also annoyed with those builders that you can probably hear in the background.
Yeah, this week, I mean, we've always got a slight background noise of construction going on, but it feels worse this week, so apologies.
The sun's out, so that's probably why they're
Yeah, getting it all done.
smashing stuff.
Yeah, you're not annoyed with the concept of personal branding.
No,
You're annoyed that a name's been given to it.
it's just, yes, it's another term in it. It's more, I'm going to say jargon. It's just something has to be bloody labelled. Basically, personal branding. I've been regularly posting on LinkedIn now, pretty much throughout my whole career at Flaunt. So that's over 2.5 years, I think. A big chunk of personal branding. I don't know. You might have a different opinion. In my opinion, is being visible by kind of posting online, and in our context, it's pretty much LinkedIn, maybe a bit of Twitter. Like that's that's the vehicle, I guess, for building a personal brand. A big chunk of it, in my opinion, is that. And I've been doing it before personal branding as a term ever existed.
Before it was cool. All right, Dan.
Still isn't cool, is it?
I think for me, I mean, obviously, yes, the premise of it is being seen to be a specialist in something or being more visible online for your job. And I think it's more so. It's the way I see it is that essentially it's you being seen from like a job first point of view.
Yeah.
So rather than being seen initially from the personal persona that you put out, or being known for the things that you get up to in your personal life or whatever else, it's being seen as a business first view.
Yeah. I've started off on not a negative footing, but I've shared my grievances with the term. The concept and the principle of it, I'm fully behind.
The importance nowadays cannot be disputed by anybody. Anybody that turns around and says it's a waste of time, being on one, and I think this is the way everybody sees it, but it's just one platform of many where you put yourself out there. But being on LinkedIn, spending your time writing on LinkedIn and building that community is a waste of time. Absolute bollocks to them.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
It's so important.
Yeah, and I would immediately probably jump the gun there and think they've tried it for a little bit. It hasn't worked for them in that short period of time, or they don't really know what they're doing on, say, LinkedIn. But obviously, if you've mentioned there, and I mentioned it earlier, there are other channels. Personal branding doesn't equal LinkedIn, but we're just talking from our experience, where we're spending our time.
Yeah, it's like anything, you have to choose a focus. And for us, we've chosen our focus as LinkedIn because it's something we're putting our time into. We are starting to understand it more and more, and we're seeing success from it, so it makes sense to carry on with that one. We've talked loads of times about expanding it further, and I think that's where then it would vary from person to person.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that before, like we've talked about how your voice and the things you talk about and the way you write and your specialisms would do really well with like a Twitter account. Whereas I think for me, because what I talk about is a lot more creative and like trending marketing topics,
Yeah.
I think that would be better for like TikTok or Instagram. I'm not going to start getting on TikTok videos because I'm too embarrassed.
Be honest.
Because I'm too self-conscious, but watch your space because you'll probably see me on there soon because I'll just give in.
We need it.
But there's so much to it, and it's the same. I think the people that turn around and say it's a waste of time, it's not worth doing, it's stupid, are not properly exploring the avenue. They're not treating it like you would anything else. Like, we go into it with strategies. They're not always necessarily written down. There is elements of stuff written down, there's elements of wider planning, but we know for ourselves what we want to talk about, we know how often we're posting, we know what the ultimate outcome is, we know who we want to be interacting with day to day, who we want in our network, who we want to build up relationships with, and that's what you're there for. That's the important thing.
Well, the thing for me is, I know you and I talked about it when you first came in here, that I've been flying the flag of what is now labelled as personal branding, being visible on LinkedIn for the sake of building a network, building an audience, which on a platform like LinkedIn really can have multiple benefits. But obviously I'm in a role where I'm trying to give and you are trying to give our agency some visibility, more presence, more awareness about who we are and what we do. That's obviously one side of it. The other side of it, from a personal perspective, is if shit ever hit the fan and I didn't end up at Flaunt for whatever reasons, and I was looking out on the job hunt, I'd like to think that I've put myself some foundations in place online with that audience building. But that's what I would probably have called it about 2.5 years ago. Me being visible on LinkedIn was probably just building a network.
Personal benefit,
It's not it wasn't ever that I have a brand as this, as a person, I have a brand and I have things I want to be kind of thought about when someone says Dan Wall, for example, what does he post about, or what do you think of his post or whatever. Like, I never thought of it that way beyond, I'm just trying to build an audience and a network, but now it's gone a bit further and it's been extended to this.
But that's probably also because we've got multiple people in the business doing it.
Yeah.
So because we're more communicative about what we're doing, about what we're posting about, there's probably more strategy because there's loads of overlap, but it's also, we do try and almost have like our own niches and our own things we talk about, and a lot of that's just from what we're personally interested in. It's not like an agenda that's been set out by the business, but I think there's a lot of businesses that are scared of allowing employees to have a personal brand or explore the personal branding option because they think it's just a recruitment tactic.
Yeah.
So a way to get yourself out there, get a better job. And I think that scares a lot of employers and a lot of businesses.
Yeah, there's also the other side of it, that they're so scared that they'll be prescriptive on behalf of their employees. So they'll say, you must post this, that, and the other, pretty much script it out for them.
Yeah, these are your topics.
Yeah.
This is what you're allowed to post about, this is what you're not allowed to talk about, these are things you're not allowed to say. Nonsense. You're not allowed to, you can't have, I mean, you can because people do, but it's not a personal brand if you're being told what to say.
No.
Like, we've put out all sorts of things that definitely raise eyebrows.
All sorts of shit.
All sorts of shit, yeah. But I've never been nervous to do it.
No, we talked about it early doors, didn't we? As understanding that people new to it will feel like it's a bit alien and a bit vulnerable.
Oh, yeah. When I started out, I was like, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing because I never really used LinkedIn until I came here and we started talking about it. And it was part of my strategy in terms of using it as a business, but I'd never really used my personal one. And it was like, the more I talked to you, saw what you were doing and saw the power that was having, that pretty much quite quickly actually became one of our main channels for branding the business and for talking about the business and for our communications. And that's not just through the business page, that was through our personal channels as well.
Yeah.
because it's huge. The power of it is unrivaled, really. I'd say probably your only main rival on that front would be Twitter to an extent, but I'd say more recently TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok videos are everywhere now
They
on
are. I
LinkedIn.
don't think they quite have the same community feel that you get through LinkedIn. You don't quite have the same building from network, as far as I've seen. I'm not saying for definite because I've not explored that massively, so I don't really know. But I'd say that you can quite quickly build a network on LinkedIn that goes further than just people interacting on your posts. It leads to like groups. It leads to, messages between people. There's a lot more to it
Yeah.
than just the social news feed.
I think I know that some people will try it and drop it because it's this instant need for
It's hard work.
it is.
Yeah,
It's really hard, and it does not happen overnight.
it doesn't. And this said when I said that I didn't do it before I started here, started doing it off the back of our conversations. And to be honest, it was slow going. Like I remember at first I used to ask you what to post. I didn't really know what I was doing, and there is some nervousness about it because I think it's a platform that faces. I'm more nervous about posting on that because it's from a business front, and the people that you have on it are people who judge you on what you post in a professional capacity. So posting a picture of my dog on Instagram, I wouldn't even think twice because they're all my mates. They're all people that I know quite well. They're friends and family who aren't going to look at it and overanalyze it and judge it. Whereas LinkedIn has things like a lot of your past colleagues, people you've worked with, people you went to school with,
Yeah.
who are judging in a professional capacity. And that means that they're looking at it. And those posts are almost like a measure of your success. And that's really how I felt about it. Like I was nervous to post.
I can understand that completely.
Yeah.
Completely.
Because you know the sort of eye that people are looking at it with.
And you've coupled with that, you've also got your new employer, really.
Yeah.
That you don't know really, cause not, well, it might be different now, but I wasn't sat down when I came here and were like, right, so when you're using LinkedIn, you can post stuff like this, but you're finding your own voice also within the parameters of what's comfortable and what's not comfortable. You need to find
Yeah.
that out yourself. So it can make you nervous from a number of different angles, I think, or wary, and so I definitely sympathise and understand because I love being there. I've just now been doing it for so long. I mean, the sort of shit that I post is obviously you can tell that I don't really care.
Well, I think, to be fair, I've got there fairly quick. So I think after you've done it for a few weeks,
Yeah.
and then you start to, it's seeing the benefits as well. It's seeing what you can have off the back of that. And people, once you find your own voice and you're comfortable in talking the way that you want to talk and about the topics you want to talk about, and you're not scared of giving your opinion, because at the end of the day, that is the most important thing of a personal brand, is giving how you feel about something, not how the business feels about it, not how you're meant to feel about it on a professional level. It's actually the things you deal with day to day and how that impacts your life, how it impacts your job, things like that. It's massively important, and sharing knowledge.
Definitely, yeah. Those things that might make you feel more vulnerable and more wary that you've just talked through there as to whether you should post them or not. Firstly, I'd say within reason, just fucking go for it. But it's easy. It is easy for us to
Yeah.
say that, and I, I would also kind of, yeah. I mean, for me, it's just it's go for it within the as early as you can judge what is acceptable, if that's the right word. Obviously, you don't want to put your foot in it and say something ridiculous, but the minute you start sharing maybe those more vulnerable things, points, opinions, for example, I can assure you that when you start to build that network, almost the first thing that would be said when you first speak to, let's call them a stranger who is now new to your network, will be that. that thing that you shared. It'll
Yeah,
be
it
almost
sticks in
like a
people's
bit of,
mind.
yeah, it's an icebreaker.
It is, and it shows that there's a real person behind businesses, which we all know, but we all like to pretend there's not. There's
Yeah.
actually real people that you're talking to, whether that's from a marketing point of view, whether it's from a sales point of view, whether it's a specialist you're talking to an agency. They're still real people. And they've still, a lot of it might be, you know, the sharing of knowledge, the giving of opinions on certain topics that are still industry related. But also, I love seeing the personal posts, and
Yeah.
I do quite a few of them.
Yeah, you do, and you're good at it. And I think you're personally, this is just my opinion. Someone listening to this would probably do the same job as me and disagree with this, but I think you're in a better position to be able to widen the net with that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and there is those elements to it. Like sometimes, like for you, and it depends. But again, that depends not just on your job, on your personality, and how you feel about sharing stuff with the world and
Yeah.
whatever else. And nobody's got to do anything. You just do.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. Is just doing online what you feel comfortable with, and talking about what you feel comfortable talking about.
Yeah, we haven't used the word authentic yet because I hate that word as well, but everything that we've just described there is a little bit like just be yourself. As much as you're comfortable with it, just be yourself. And I know this is getting really specific on like tips and stuff, and I'm absolutely not qualified.
We're not the LinkedIn guru,
Yeah.
so we're just struggling through.
This isn't a tip in the sense of listen to me, I'll tell you what to do because I don't have a bloody clue. But writing how you speak.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people talking about that, but I think the more you do it, the easier it gets as well. Because we're taught to write like quite formal.
Yeah, but even like my emails now, and they used to be.
Yeah,
No, they're just not. They're not as chatty as a
like a
LinkedIn
text
post.
message.
Yeah, but they're. I'm more comfortable in.
Less the dear sir or madam.
Yeah, like I'm more comfortable in where I'm in my career and what I'm confident. I'm more confident in what we do here,
Yeah.
and me being that first voice, in a on a LinkedIn post or an email. I've just relaxed it all because I'm so confident that when people come and speak to us as an agency, firstly they like us, and secondly we can prove that we've got the creds.
Yeah, you don't need to talk in a certain way to show that you know what you're on about. 'Cause, I mean, again, totally different topic, but that's almost widening to our own brand tone and voice. We've relaxed that massively since I started, and that's a lot of that's through like running, like testing posts across like social media and things like that. And actually, it's just the way people are used to reading things now. If you spend all day on social media and people write in a certain way, and it's quite a chill tone of voice, like quite chatty, and then you go to a blog post that's overly formal, overly written, it just
Tedious.
jazz. Yeah, you're not going to read it. It's not what we used to read. It's not how we used to reading things either.
Yeah, the personal branding thing is interesting because I think it's now got a label, so I have to fall in line with that when we'll use it as a term, and obviously it's what we're talking about today. But there's definitely big value in doing it.
There's massive, and that's not the value isn't in your viral post, which we've had like in this room. We've had a handful of viral posts between us with some ridiculous stats on them, ridiculous views, ridiculous reactions that you just like still make me gasp a bit. But they're not the ones that build our network. They're not the ones that get us conversations at all. They get us followers, but they're often not your followers where you look at it and you're like, oh, that's somebody I'm really interested in. That's somebody I'd really like to continue a conversation with. And not just from a sales point of view, just from a purely like interesting, industry relevant conversation point of view. Whereas actually our smaller like opinion led pieces, that's where I've always found I get the most from it because I build my network. I build my conversations. There's something more to be had from it than just a funny post that did really well.
Exactly that. Like for you, in your role and thinking about the things, the metrics as boring as this sounds like it's going to be, like the metrics that you would look at in your role versus what I would look at, since you have been building that network on your network on LinkedIn, look at the attendees for webinars, for
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
that we wouldn't have had
Yeah.
before your
Coming off the
audience.
back of personal,
Yeah,
personal posts, not
Yeah.
posts off the business page. Yeah.
last week someone popped up on your LinkedIn asking, can we have a call with the sales team?
Yeah.
Or with
Yeah.
whoever.
And we get that. I mean, you get it far more than I do. Nowadays, we can actually attribute a lot of our business to what we're doing on LinkedIn.
100% we can.
Yeah. And it's a free platform.
Well, like,
It's absolutely crazy.
you just see either people not having not having the license to do what they want on there and be the person that they truly are. People, so there's either that option, or people just don't believe in it, or have given up too early, or people who are just doing it so badly. That you still see people, don't you, that are regularly posting, like blasting out spammy type posts and just shit, and those engagement pods that we've seen happening on LinkedIn. Thanks for sharing this, Dan. Like bollocks comments on stuff.
It's just comments for the sake of it.
Yeah, like there's a lot of nonsense going on there, but also I think it's quite telling. There's personal branding agencies and companies that have popped up. There's people dedicating their day-to-day job role to personal branding on behalf of other, voices on LinkedIn. So it's clearly a thing. As much as I chat on like the label of it, I think neither of us can deny that it exists.
No, it's massive. And if you're not doing it, why aren't you doing it?